Important. Doll customization is not meant for children. These are art pieces created by experienced artists using potentially harmful materials and processes, including spraying toxic aerosols, using knives, saws, flammable chemicals such as acetone, skin and eye irritants such as clays and glues with toxic fumes, and specialty paints and glosses identified as potentially carcinogenic. Destroying and upcycling figures and dolls is dangerous and causes irreversible damage to personal property. Therefore, viewer discretion is advised and younger audiences should not view this content without adult supervision. We recommend watching the YouTube Kids app instead for kid-appropriate content. Hi everyone, it's me, Diana, the Doll Fairy. Welcome to my tea party. Welcome to my haunted Halloween tea party. Oh, that reminds me, I need to change into my Halloween costume. Perfect. You remember my previous Halloween dolls, right? I made Chandelure 2 years ago, and she's based on the haunted Chandelier ghost Pokemon from Unova. And last year, we made Constance Hatchaway, inspired by the ghost bride of Disney's Haunted Mansion ride. For this Halloween, I'm going to be collaborating once again with 17 other doll artists here on YouTube, including Ten Dance, Blank Space Dolls, Characters Factory, Dolllightful, Doll's Brand New Look, Enchantarium, H. Ali Crafts, Hextian, His Name is Aiken, Cairo's Workshop, Moonlight Jewel, My Minimon, Poppin' Atelier, Scariosities, Sky the Golden, The Dolly Geek, and Tiamat Creations. The links to their channels are all in the description below, so after this video, be sure to check them all out or watch the playlist to see all of these spooky doll creations one after the other. Now, what doll should we make for this year's Halloween? Chandelure, could you not slurp your tea so loudly? My goodness. Wait a minute. Tea. That's it! There's a brand new ghost-type Pokemon in the Galar region making its debut in Pokemon Sword and Shield next month, and it's a haunted teapot. Polteageist not only has an adorable pun for a name, it's also super cute and colorful, with just the right amount of spookiness. I came up with this design for a human version of Polteageist. The toughest part will be figuring out the teapot itself. Since the ghost portion of Polteageist is purple, I'm going to use this Jane Boolittle doll as her base. I remove all of her clothes and accessories, as well as her hair, which I cut off using scissors. To remove the head, I first soften the vinyl of the head by dunking the doll in some hot water. Then I twist the head off carefully to avoid damaging the neck peg. Using long-nosed jewelry pliers, I scrape the inside of the head to pull the remaining hair into the head. Then I use the pliers to pull out the bits of hair and glue from inside the head through the neck hole in order to clean it all out. Next, I use some acetone on a cotton ball to remove the original face paint from the doll and the scalp. Acetone is flammable and toxic if ingested, so this is not something that a child should do. Now that the head is fully prepared, we can begin rerooting. I gathered all the beautiful shades of purple and magenta that the doll planet sent to me in order to decide what color her hair should be. But as I looked at the design of the Pokemon, I noticed the orangey gradient that peeks through the cracks in the teapot, and decided that some variation of this color would work better than a shade of purple. I ended up using Midas Touch from the doll planet, which I got in my doll planet blind bag. So let's consider this part 1 of completing my blind bag challenge. I'll also be using my rerooting tool from the doll planet, so I insert one of their pre-cut needles and get to work. I snip the hank in half and keep a spray bottle handy to wet the hair while working with it. I use the cut end of the needle to scoop up a small plug of hair and then push it into the holes in the head. I'm starting at the nape of the neck and working my way up. Since my doll's hair will be styled into pigtails, I draw a line down the middle of the scalp where the part line will go all the way down. Then I reroot the part line last, crisscrossing the hair over the part line to conceal all of the scalp. I use fabric fusion glue in the inside of the head to secure the reroot. Honestly, I'm not a fan of this glue, and to be honest, I sometimes skip it. Off camera, I boil washed the hair so that it wouldn't puff out, and I styled it into cute pigtails. Now I cover up the hair to protect it while I work on the face up. I use Mr. Super Clear, which is a spray sealant that can permanently damage your lungs over time if you breathe it in. So to protect myself, I wear an industrial-grade respirator mask which I got from Amazon. Link in the description to my Amazon storefront if you want to check it out. I also always spray outside in the proper weather conditions. After spraying 2 to 3 initial coats and allowing each to dry fully, I can start drawing on the face with my Prismacolor watercolor pencils. Since Polteageist has very distinct yellow side-glancing eyes in this wide oval shape, my main priority in the face-up was to capture that whimsical look. It seemed like it would be tough at first because of the more almond shape of the eye molds on the doll, but I did my best to work around that and use colors to disguise that shape. It may be a little difficult to see clearly because I used a golden yellow pencil instead of a darker color. It's important that I maintain almost a glowy sort of feeling to the yellow against the darker purple skin tone. For her lips, I'll be making them a warmer shade of purple using pastels, but I used my pencils in purples and reds to turn up the corners of the mouth a bit so that she looks like she has a bit of a cute smile. I fill in the irises, which this time will have no pupils, and also the whites of the eyes. The colors still look translucent now because it's only the first layer, but with subsequent layers, the colors will become much more vivid. I use purple and magenta pastels to color her lips and give her some blushing. I used more reddish tones for the blushing, especially because the Pokemon itself is a warmer purple color than the base doll, so I add a bit of that warmth through the pastels. After spraying another layer, I can go over what I've done so far with another layer, adding vividness to the colors and depth as well by adding some shading in the eyes. For the irises, I add some lighter yellow and some white in the bottom portion to create a glow. Then I use more golden shades of yellow and orange to shade the upper parts of the iris. I used some dark brown to add definition to the lighter colors I used in the lash line and the eyebrows. Then I also add some dark brown to create the look of shadows in the irises. I add more magenta pastels to the face, and I'm really liking the effect. For the next layer, I continue adding more color and depth, such as some gray in the whites of the eyes for shadow, and some black in the irises as well. I repeat this process for another layer or two until I'm satisfied with how vivid the colors are. I'm especially looking for the whites of the eyes to look opaque against the purple skin, and for the irises to be bright enough to look as if they're glowing. Once I'm satisfied with that and have done a last spray of MSC, I use white acrylic paint to create some playful highlights in the irises. Then I use some Sculpey gloss to give her lips a bit of shine. Now that her face is ready, let's move on to her dress and her teapot. Although my original vision was to have her inside of an actual miniature teapot, I considered making clothing that suggested a teapot, such as a baby doll bubble dress like I sketched here. But I really wasn't satisfied with that idea, and I don't think she would be as recognizable that way. I decided instead to get a plastic toy teapot online, modify and paint it, and make a ruffled dress for her to wear underneath the teapot. I sketched out some ideas for what the dress should look like, and then picked the fabrics. I'll be using this pretty purple for most of the dress, with accents in this shiny yellow gold organza. I like how they look layered like this. I'll use some white lace for accents as well. For the top half of the dress, I'm using parts of Requiem Art's Victorian steampunk dress pattern, which is also what I used for Constance's dress. The middle panel of the bodice will have a layer of the golden organza, reminiscent again of that orangey purple gradient in Polteageist's ghostly body. The coolest thing about this pattern has got to be the puff sleeves. When the bodice is constructed, I decide to use this skirt from an Ever After High doll as the pattern for the bottom half of the dress, which will have ruffles sewn on in white and yellow. Sewing and gathering the ruffles I'm sure would be quicker on a sewing machine, but I tend to go back to hand sewing because it's so much easier for me to control and understand. Maybe someday, machine. I'll get there. I shorten the skirt and sew on the ruffles in 3 layers, with the organza at the bottom. It reminds me of candy corn, actually. I sew up the back of the dress and stitch on Velcro for the closure. Now for the teapot. I bought this plastic toy tea set on Amazon. The teapot is the perfect size and shape, but I will need to cut out a hole in the bottom so that the doll will be able to wear the teapot. In order to do this, I take a sharp X-Acto knife and hold it over a candle flame to heat it up. Heating it makes it easier for the knife to slice through the plastic. I also held the teapot over the flame a bit to soften the plastic. Needless to say, this is not something that children should be doing, as it is very dangerous, involving both fire and knives. This was really tough for me, to be honest. The plastic was thick and not the least bit flexible. It took a long time to make a hole, and then longer to widen it by slicing and sawing around the mouth of the hole. If I could do this over, I would have just cut out the whole bottom instead of first cutting a small hole and then trying to widen it. I don't know why I did it that way. Then I also sketched out what part of the top I wanted to cut out to create the broken piece like the Pokemon has taken out of it, and I used my trusty knife once again. I began by watering down some off-white acrylic paint and giving the teapot and the cover many thin coats in order to make the white opaque and smooth. This took hours and hours as well, but it looks pretty nice afterwards. Then I start sketching where the patterns on the teapot will go, as well as sketching on the broken pieces missing from the teapot and trying to use very simple perspective to give the illusion that they are three-dimensional. I mix up a light pastel green blue and paint the top half of the teapot and the flower shape on the cover. It takes a few coats of that as well to get an even coloring. I also paint the handle and the details on the top a golden yellow. For the broken pieces, I mix paints to create the gradient of purple to orange. Then I draw on the swirl patterns with pencil before painting along them with a darker blue-green color. I use a Myuu ink pen to outline the cracks in the teapot and the broken pieces. And with that, the teapot is complete. I'm so happy with how accurate it looks to the design of the Pokemon. I used more of that light green-blue color to paint some Maddie Hatter hands for Polteageist, since I don't think the somewhat clawed hands that come with Jane Boolittle fit this cute Pokemon. Then I remembered to seal the paint job that took me many hours by painting on some diluted Liquitex matte varnish on the teapot, the cover, and the hands. Now it's time to bring everything together. I remove the covering from Polteageist's hair and smooth and restyle her pigtails. Now all the components are ready. I'm adding some cute lace cuffs for her wrists that came from Maddie Hatter, as well as Maddie Hatter's signature shoes, which I actually didn't have any left and had to order on eBay because they go perfectly with this doll's design. I reattach her head. Then I'm confronted with the issue of whether to put on the dress, then pull the skirt through the teapot, or put the dress through the teapot and then put the doll's body into both. As I struggled, I had to admit the inevitable. The hole was not big enough for the dress ruffles to fit through, let alone the doll's thighs as well. After some lamenting, I got the knife back out and did some more surgery on the teapot. It took a few more hours, but at least it didn't ruin the paint job like I had feared it might. And now, finally, I've managed to assemble everything. Yes! So, I know I usually transform a base doll into a new doll, but I've been working on my magic. And I figured if Cinderella's fairy godmother could turn a pumpkin into a carriage, then I should be able to turn a pumpkin into a haunted teapot. Ready? Here goes! It worked! She's so cute! Now, how about a spot of tea? How lovely. Polteageist, you make the perfect addition to our haunted Halloween tea party. Thanks for coming. I also want to thank my amazing Patreon supporters for all of their support and encouragement. On Patreon, I like to share bonus content, works in progress, and we even have our own little community where we can share with each other what we're working on and give each other feedback and advice, and also participate in Patreon exclusive contests and collaborations. If you'd like to join, please check it out in the link in the description below. I'd also like to remind you that the Doll Fairy now has an official shop with apparel, accessories, charms, stickers, and lots of cool stuff for sale. I designed all of the merch on thedollfairy.com, so head over to check it out and sign up for the email list to find out the inside scoop about upcoming sales and events. Don't forget that there are so many more spooky doll videos for you all to watch in this year's big Halloween collaboration. Go check out all of my fellow artists' doll videos to get your fill of Halloween tricks and treats. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I hope you have a fun and safe Halloween, whether you spend it with family, out collecting candy with friends, or curled up at home with a bowl of candy corn watching our Halloween doll videos. See you all soon for more doll magic. Bye! And that's the tea, sis.